I guarantee that the Tingler has more shocks per minute than my last film, The House on Haunted Hill.
You want burgers, hot dogs, some chicken, and ribs. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
So is there anything better than sitting down to the scent of campfire and watching an old black and white movie?
No, actually, because now that you mentioned that, that is what we did with today's feature. And
Yes.
that was nice, man.
Yes.
Like, I would really love to have a theater room, you know, like a screening room.
Yeah.
Even though that's like mostly relegated to like rich people, I think. But like, but that would be so cool if you could pump in synths like that, like old timey synths while you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
Which, again, we're still stuck on the gimmicks. It's still a gimmick, people.
Yeah.
It's a gimmick party. Today's gimmick is Percepto. So I, what I really wanted to do, which I guess I should intro the show. Holy shit. People are, what am I listening to? But welcome to Night of the Horror File, a horror and genre movie podcast where I take a horror movie or a genre film and show it to my beautiful wife, Brittany, who puts in her colorful thoughts. And sometimes she likes these things and not oftentimes. Sometimes she doesn't. I can't think of, have you really had some really strong dislikes lately?
Lately?
Yeah. It's been a while since you've had a really...
I don't know, probably Pink Flamingos.
Yeah, you didn't like Pink Flamingos. That was funny. But so if you joined us last week for our episode on William Castle, you know exactly what's up today. We did the first two episodes of this month had been the mini series on movie gimmicks, which outstanding response to that. Apparently people really loved it. Somebody wrote me and told me it was the best episodes of podcasts I've ever listened to, which is very awesome. I believe that was Steve Strutt from the Stephen Crypto Show, which go check them out. That's an actually very good show. They cover all sorts of nerd topics, you know, horror, comic books, and all sorts of stuff like that. Awesome things. But hopefully we can continue that little foray into gimmicks, because today we're covering one of William Castle's finest, I think. Today's film is the third part of 5 collaborations between Castle and writer Rob White. Now, the films they turned out are some of Castle's most memorable, or at least the films people think of when they hear William Castle. Macabre, 13 Ghosts, Homicidal, House on Haunted Hill, and of course, today's feature. Now, White, he was mostly known for his adventure novels. Now, these stories were aimed at young readers and centered around youthful protagonists working together against the elements. Periscope is a great one. In fact, that was turned into a film in 1959 with James Garner. You hanging in there?
You just went on and on. I was waiting for you to breathe a little bit. I thought I was going to have to do CPR.
I have noticed that with especially the William Castle episode this month. Oh my God. Like, I was editing and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm so excited. Like, you can hear the boner. It's an audible boner. Anyway, White, when writing this story, was influenced by his encounter with a centipede. I'm sorry, I had to include that. I love it when, the writers of these stories, like, you're always thinking, where did they get their ideas and stuff like that? You think it might be a complex story. And then it's like, I don't know. I saw a centipede once. I thought that'd be cool. Horror monster.
Right.
That'd be cool. Which is mostly the idea behind a lot of these movies. But anyway, so a lot more simple than his other works, as you can tell. You know, a lot of his novels are actually very good, but they're more just adventure and not really a horror guy. Now, this also marks William Castle's return to Columbia Pictures. He took his recently formed production company from Allied Artists to Columbia after House on Haunted Hill, which same year. And, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to look back on all these old pictures and realize they were churning these motherfuckers out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially like the early Roger Corman flicks, William Castle.
Sorry.
Brittany has a cat in her face. Right?
I didn't mean to make that noise. It just came out of my
That
mouth.
was funny. That was not an audible fart.
No.
We didn't have a Rudy Giuliani fart.
I just had a cat tail in my mouth. I'm so sorry.
It's so the cat apparently wants to be part of this podcast. Control your pussy, madam.
I have no control. Do you see this?
What is happening over there?
I don't know.
We are recording, sir. Go into the waiting room.
He's got my headphones. I tried to get him in my lap so that he would just lay still, and he's just attacking me.
I enjoy having a studio cat. This is kind of nice. Anyway, back to what I was talking about before the cat rudely interrupted.
I'm so sorry.
So he's with Columbia now. Now, of course, the gimmick in today's feature, like I said, is Percepto. Probably one of Castle's most famous, the seat buzzers, if you heard our last episode. But also returning is Vincent Price. This would mark his second and final film with William Castle, but it's his fifth appearance in a horror film. And honestly, this pretty much cemented him as the horror mainstay we all know and love. Now, strangely to me, this movie appears on a lot of worst of or best worst horror movie lists.
Best worst horror movie list.
Yeah,
okay.
people love to
That's a
throw
thing.
those out. People love to make lists nowadays. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Everybody's making a fucking list.
Yeah.
I think it's because journalism is basically dead. So everybody just sits around making lists.
They're like, oh, we gotta write something. We gotta write a list.
Yeah, we'll make a list. Let's make a list of a best number 2 pencils.
I bet there's a list for that.
I tried doing it was a long time ago. I did a blog to make fun of journalists and people who run these websites these days, where they make these lists and they do these shitty reviews of a movie, shit like that.
Right.
I made a blog making fun of that, and no one got the joke. Everybody thought I was serious. I was like, no, I'm not being serious. I had to
This is satire.
yeah, I had to delete that from the internet. But anyway,
It's still there.
it probably is. Now, to me, The Tingler is a fun film. And again, Brittany is going to giggle through most of this.
I can't help it. It's funny.
We didn't even do the movie in the intro. We dropped the ball hard on that one. We're watching The Tingler, if I haven't said it yet. But anyway, Tingler.
Stop it.
She's trying hard. But it doesn't bring much new to the horror genre, but it has aged so well that it's still entertaining to this day. And hopefully that's what we get across with our episode today. So without further ado, let's dive into The Tingler.
Okay. So,
From 1959.
oh. Why did you look at me like
I was
that?
looking for you. I was giving you a little giggle room.
I was focusing, okay?
Okay.
I was focused. Anyway, so like any William Castle movie, William Castle comes on the screen and then he murders Lee. He comes through the screen and he stabs you
Now that would be a gimmick.
through the back.
Thank you, Mr. Castle.
He guts you from the back, and then he pulls the tingler out.
Ooh.
And then he puts the tingler on your face.
We'll talk about why this movie is actually low-key horrifying later on about that whole Tingler idea. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think out of all the decades in horror, the 40s through the 50s are probably the most important films to watch. So as a horror fan, don't limit yourself to one decade. Everybody's obsessed with the 80s to the point where I don't think they understand movies that come out throwing tribute to the 90s.
Oh yeah.
But you can really tell when you watch these older pictures of how these would influence horror films in the future, especially today's film. The pure camp of today's feature, I argue, had to have influenced future directors, especially in the beloved decade of the 1980s. The 80s being the decade where I think horror started really being fun again. And I think that's why people latch on to it, because the 1980s movies were just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But that's my opinion. No one asked for it. That's all my opinions on this.
If they're listening to this, they did.
That's true. I don't think they tune in for me, though. I really don't.
They
have to tune in for you.
I don't think so.
Well, they probably align more with you. I'm a fucking...
yeah, you're a weirdo.
I know. I feel like a crypt keeper. Just this creepy dude that lives in a house.
What?
I wish we lived on a hill, you know?
We live in the hills.
I wish our house was more spookier. Like, so when the neighbor kids would, like, ride by, they'd be like, oh, my God, that's that haunted house.
Well, maybe when we buy it, we could paint it black.
There you go.
How's that sound?
Red door.
Okay.
No, that'd be kind of cool, man. You got to admit. That'd be kind of cool.
I guess.
Red door in a black house.
And we have the grass really high.
Yeah.
Because our grass isn't grass, it's clover.
That's true. I mean, no one would complain unless we hung a gay pride flag outside. Then it's Oklahoma.
Yep.
But anyway. Anywho.
So William Castle comes on screen and says that he needs to warn us that some of the sensations and physical reactions that the actors on the screen will feel will be experienced for the first time in motion picture history by the audience. Some people are more sensitive to these mysterious electronic impulses than others. These unfortunate sensitive people will at times feel a strange tingling sensation.
He mostly put that little line out, like saying, not everybody will experience the tingle. Right. But like he put that out so like it would make up for the fact that, he couldn't buy all these because we talked about in the last episode. He bought those Army surplus little airplane de-icers that vibrate and stuff. So he couldn't afford to put those under every seat.
Right.
So it was just some seats. So that little line kind of makes up for that. But the whole time he's delivering this, he has got this almost about to bust out laughing.
Yeah.
And I love that about William Castle because he has this macabre sense of humor that's just, you can tell he's having a good time.
Oh, yeah. He goes on to say that you can protect yourself at any time you feel this tingling. You can obtain relief by screaming. He says, don't be embarrassed about giving it your all because the person next to you will be screaming too. And he says, a scream at the right time might save your life.
And you think back to you watching this, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's about that? Are you going to kill me?
I have to scream? What? I need to scream to get relief?
Castle was part of a group of directors who knew this type of material, though. Murder, death, horror could be fun for everyone. This was before the time where true crime had its big boom, before horror has become such a mainstay kind of like genre nowadays. Like it used, I don't know, even in our time of the 90s, it wasn't cool to be a big horror fan. We were seen as the dregs of society.
Right,
and the satanic panic scared most of us away. Right. But I think this kind of humor really predates. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock had the same kind of little sneer. He delivered it more deadpan than William Castle does, but Alfred Hitchcock used to do this stuff too, like intro his films. I believe in one of the trailers for The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock gets attacked by a bird in the middle of his speech.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so they were all they were just having fun, They put out the idea that everyone could enjoy a horror picture. Most horror films during this time and before were considered kids stuff, We kind of talked about that in our last few episodes. But even back then, horror reflected our everyday fears.
Right.
To really understand why there was such a huge surge of horror movies based around... I'm laughing at the cat that's attacking Brittany right now. But to understand the huge surge of horror films out in the 1940s or late 40s to 60s, you got to kind of understand how the audiences, how their minds were, because during most of the 1950s, your horror movies were science based, as today's picture very much is. Mm-hmm. During this time, technology was spreading and expanding in audiences' homes and workplaces, and you can see a clear difference in style when looking at films from the 1930s and early 40s, where mostly you had caped monsters terrifying European villagers, Dracula, Frankenstein, all those kind of things. Those ruled the screen before this. And then during this time, when new monsters arrived, those that inhabited our swamps in the U.S. and our deserts and stuff like that, that's when you started seeing more locally based monsters, but also more science.
Right.
Basically, this was also because the Second World War had just ended. That's one of the biggest reasons. 40 million people were dead at this time. And those who came back to us had seen enough horrors overseas to leave them hardened to the sight of a Dracula or a Frankenstein monster.
Right.
So things...
The real monsters are living among us.
No joke. So things became more complex. You start getting more complex monsters.
Right.
Not just, I think Frankenstein... the movie, not the I know it's Frankenstein's monster, but I think that's one of the closest things to a science-based one of the 20s and 30s. But but they had to get inventive, with these things. And the Tingler, a creature that responds to our fears and literally lives in all of us, is pretty an imaginative thing. I think for the time, this is pretty cool. Like, this is pretty ahead of its time for something like this.
Oh, yeah.
Because, that's another thing is the Tingler is ahead of its time. And I'll say this a bunch of times in this fucking show, that, like, the Tingler isn't just a gimmick movie. It's literally, like, it's a body horror movie that predates, like, David Cronenberg.
Right. And I'll save it for later. I'll save it for later when we talk about it more.
Okay.
So then we get this montage of people screaming, and you could only see their heads.
Now, these people you'll be able to see later in the theater.
Yeah.
The theater patrons. It's all of them just doing that. It's the extras.
Then we see a man. He looks horrified as he's being taken out of a jail cell by two officers. And he's screaming very dramatically while being dragged off to be executed. The medical examiner performs the autopsy on the man that was executed. Then another man walks in to talk to him. He says that he's the man's brother-in-law. He asks if the chair always kills them or does it hurt them. And the medical examiner says, not if it's done properly. He's like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
And then he says that the man's vertebrae was cracked and almost split in two.
Yeah, so the mystery starts
He's
here.
confused.
The thing, what I really appreciate about this scene is that, like, although we don't see this dude get fucking electrode to death, like, what I love about these old movies is if you look, like, they always have a shadow of what's about to happen to the person.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, because when the two officers are leading that guy into the execution chamber, I'm assuming, on the wall, you see the shadow of the electric chair. And I've always really appreciated the use of shadows in movies like this to get past that violence thing,
Right. And it kind of tells you what's happening without telling you what's happening. Yeah,
exactly. I think I really do enjoy the movies that go less is more sometimes.
Yeah.
There are those movies where I'm like, okay, more needs to be more here. Like, you need to give me some gore.
I need something.
Yeah. I'm going to need something to bite into. But so, of course, here, though, we have the incredible master of menace himself, Vincent Price, playing the obsessed scientist role. These types of roles were very common through most of your creature features.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've kind of discussed this here and there. But, like, we will eventually, when we start doing more and more of these, you'll start to very much notice the films in the 1950s and stuff were insanely populated by this type of character. But Vincent Price is amazing in this one.
Oh, yeah.
He is chewing the scenery and really having a blast here. And I honestly think it's Vincent Price who sells this movie. The premise of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just his insane performance. And is this the first time you've seen a Vincent Price picture?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
You could tell me better than I can.
Yeah, it's the first.
Okay. Then why did you ask?
I don't know. I
don't remember these things.
I was like, what if she has seen a Vincent Price movie? I mean, technically you have. You've seen Edward Scissorhands, right?
Yes.
Do you remember the old man at the beginning of the movie that's making Edward's hands and then he dies.
Yeah.
That's Vincent Price.
Okay.
Yeah. Vincent Price's career, my God.
See, I wouldn't have known that. Like, Johnny Depp was in that movie, okay?
Well, yeah, at that time, unless you're me, nobody knows who the fuck Vincent Price is at that point.
Right.
Well, at our age.
Right.
Like I said, my dad was like, that's Vincent Price. I knew all about Vincent Price. Honestly, Price's career would go on to span 7 decades, over 100 on-screen credits, not counting his radio performances, commercials, and more. He did commercials for like Polaroid film cassettes. He was working everywhere, man. Because we'll cover that if we ever do a retrospective on Vincent Price's career, which I think we might. Okay. Because that would be very fun to do. Okay. But Price worked with everyone from Errol Flynn to, well, of course, Johnny Depp, like you said. Right. he was with everybody. But if you really want a rundown of Vincent Price's career and who he was as a person, there's even an episode on this I'm about to say that goes over his love of roller coasters. Because, I mean, Vincent Price, while he was scary and stuff in the movies, and he seemed so imposing, he was apparently the sweetest guy ever. Like
I don't think he was scary. I thought he seemed genuinely like,
yeah, that's true.
Nice.
Wait till you see Dr. Phibes. I cannot wait to do more Vincent Price. But no, go check out the Full Price podcast. I'm not sure the schedule of release on episodes since the last one was in March, because this guy packs a lot of info into the episodes.
Oh, wow.
But it was one of the first podcasts that really welcomed us to the podcasting world. He was a very nice guy, and his fucking show is wonderful. Like, if you are a big fan of these old movies and stuff like that, you'll love that one. Because, like I said, he packs so much info into those shows.
So the medical examiner goes on to say that he's seen this in people that were terrified before they died. Mm-hmm. He says, it's the force of fear that cracks their spine. The man that's in there says maybe it's what makes your spine tingle when you're scared. This gives the Emmy an idea, and he says it's more than a tingle, but now he has a name for it, so he's going to call it
the Tingler.
Then he goes on and on about being scared to death, and I didn't put details in here.
Well, there's a lot like these old movies, and we've covered this when we covered a few old movies. They're very dialogue heavy.
Yes.
Because, I mean, think about it. You didn't have the effects and stuff like we do now. You can't rely on CG. What's really funny is nowadays, you don't get performances like Vincent Price and stuff. Mm-hmm. Mostly because we do rely on CG. I'm about to piss everybody off, but we were all excited for Robert Downey Jr. to be back, and then he does movies on his own that aren't Iron Man, and they suck ass.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh no. Like, to the point where his older performances when he was drugged out were better. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happening, but that's what's happening. Maybe he's too rich now. I don't know. But this...
So they finally introduced each other, and the man that walked in, his name is Oliver Higgins. He goes by Ollie. Mm-hmm. And the medical examiner is Dr. Warren Chapin. And Ollie asked the doctor for a ride home.
You don't get too many Ollies nowadays.
No.
Somebody name your kid Oliver so we can call him Ollie. That'd be fun.
I know somebody that has a son named Oliver.
Really?
I don't know if they call him
Ollie.
Ollie.
Just randomly. Just piss everybody off. Hey, Ollie.
Why would that piss everybody?
Why would you be hanging out with their son? Anyway.
I don't even hang out with her. Why
I know, that's what I was
her
just
3-year-old?
What the fuck is that? Can Ollie come out to play? No. But this guy here playing Ollie, that's Philip Coolidge. Now, he was pretty big on like Broadway and stuff, and he was a big character actor. Some of you guys might know him from North by Northwest. He played Dr. Cross in that. The same year as this. And like I said, like, people were churning these movies out. That's what's amazing about this. I mean, actors were working. Coolidge was in 4 films during 1959, and Vincent Price was in 5 films.
Holy shit.
During 1959. Yeah. This was the time where, actors worked hard.
But how long did they film for? Like 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think this took 4 weeks to shoot.
Right.
Yeah, so you could like shoot a film, go on to the next film, go on, really make a living off of these things.
Do that again.
Go on. It's
you were like bouncing.
It's not like today where like, a big name actor could do like one picture and fucking be cool for the rest of the year.
Right. Right.
I mean, I don't know. Ryan Reynolds keeps doing fucking movies back to back.
Ryan Reynolds needs to calm the fuck down.
Right? I used to love him. I used to really love him. And now I'm like, can you stop?
He could have stopped with Deadpool.
Or hey, how about this? Stop playing Deadpool in every one of your single movies.
Yes.
Every movie he's been in, he's just Deadpool.
Yes, I agree.
And I've seen Ryan Reynolds do serious acting. Like in
Before
Buried.
Deadpool.
Yeah. Buried. Amazing movie that shows you he can actually do some serious acting, but he fucking won't anymore, I guess, because they're like, I could just imagine it on set. Just do Deadpool. Just do that. Do the Deadpool stuff. He may be tired of his own career.
He might be.
God damn it.
How was he as Green Lantern?
Okay. Now you guys are going to crucify me for this one, but I enjoy those shitty superhero movies. Like today,
you love shitty movies.
I do. So today I had a retrospective, what am I fucking the Alamo Draft House over here? But I had a little like back-to-back viewing of the Ghost Rider movies.
Oh yeah.
Like, I was like, man, these are fun films. Like, this is a good time. I don't know what it is. I think it's because those superhero movies that are like Green Lantern and a Ghost Rider and stuff, they're just so weird and offbeat.
Oh yeah.
And they're not what we have these days. Plus, it's just one single superhero. I think that may also be the thing.
Yeah, you like a single superhero.
I didn't have Iron Man farting around in my Ghost Rider movie today.
Thank God.
That second Ghost Rider, though, they really underused Idris Elba. I'll say that.
Oh.
But fucking Christopher Lambert just pops up out of nowhere. Like for a hot second. It's weird. But anyway.
Anyway. So they pull up to a theater showing silent movies. Ollie says it belongs to his wife and they run it together. Mm-hmm. He then goes to tell his wife what's going on, and we learn that she's deaf. So the men walk down a little ways and go into Ollie's house. Ollie tells the doctor about the cleaning that goes into running the theater. Mm-hmm. And he says that the silent movies are just as good as the movies nowadays. The doctor says he wants to see some of the old Charlie Chaplin films again. And Ollie says that they show them once a year. It
would be really cool if a theater around here ran some silent films.
It'd be really cool if a theater cleaned their theater like Ollie was talking about.
Man, I will tell you, dude.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, if you were in Tulsa and you're like me and you don't really care for the chain theaters, go check out the Circle Cinema, man. It was amazing. I saw Pig, the new Nicolas Cage movie. Uh-huh. By the way, best movie I've seen in years.
That's awesome.
It was a legitimate movie. But I saw that there. And it's one of those art houses. Well, you call them art houses now, but it's an independently run theater that runs off of donations.
Yeah.
And man, it's just so much better. And you don't have those recliner seats.
Right.
Like, give me a hard theater seat any day of the year. You know,
it helps you focus on the movie.
Yeah, don't feel like I'm falling asleep.
Right. So the wife comes in, Ollie's wife comes in and puts money away in a safe and then goes and washes her hands. And Ollie tells the doctor that Martha is deaf and dumb. And by dumb, he means mute. But she can read lips and she is a germaphobe.
Yeah, I love the human, like the human drama we get here, like the characteristics, especially of Martha, because she's a disabled person, but they don't, I don't know, they just do it. It feels okay. It feels normal.
Right. They're not making fun of her.
Yeah, they're not.
She just is a character.
Yeah. I mean, it is important to the plot later on.
Right.
But like, I don't know, it just feels genuine.
It's important to the plot, but not in a bad way.
No. Yeah. So I like how they treat that. But honestly, the human drama in this movie, it's an overlooked little subplot that makes the Tingler a bit more than just a gimmick film. Again, what we see during The movie, and especially are introduced here, is something that reflects what it was like being in a movie theater industry in the late 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, Ollie's whole motive in this movie, as we come to find out, is just to escape his hopeless life. He's stuck. During this time period, you had a lot of these little discount theaters trying to make it big, and mostly showing older films like the silent ones of the past. It was hard and thanklessly poorly paid.
Oh, yeah.
These people broke their back trying to do that because you couldn't hire anyone.
Right.
You know, you think of the chain places, they're hiring all these pimply-faced teenagers to clean their auditoriums and stuff like that. These small little houses had maybe 2 people running it, as we see here, and they were in charge of everything.
Right.
You know,
they have to open it on time. They have to, well, they had a projectionist there.
Oh, they had a projection. Yeah.
But you have to back in those days, you got to be trained to be a projectionist.
Yeah, that's another thing, and I think we mentioned that on our gimmicks episodes. That is a lost art, the projectionist.
Oh, yeah.
I think it really is, because even at the Circle Cinema, just a dude. There's nobody running a projectionist. It's just a projector.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, I could do this.
I think they just push a button. Actually,
it really is.
I think most of the time they're set on timers.
It is. You could see in the corner of the screen where it's auto timer on, the movie started.
Yeah.
It's just it's a lost art. It's very cool. This movie really does touch on that, that hardships you face, trying to be a little theater competing with the big chains that were emerging.
Right. So the doctor ends up dropping a saucer and cutting his hand and bleeding. Well, Martha sees the blood and is in shock, and she ends up fainting. The doctor explains that she can't release a scream, so she ends up having a psychosomatic escape. I had to think about how to say that word. Yeah. And he ends up waking her, and she is freaking out about the safe, and she doesn't want to leave anyone alone with it, but they have to open the box office now. Yeah, which
kind of hints at something she doesn't quite trust Ollie.
Right.
Even he says later on that she'd kill him if she could.
Right. So she had passed out. She didn't know how long she was passed out for. Right. So she was like, "Where's my money?"
Yeah, this motherfucker trying to run off with the money. But
right.
But I like this character of Martha because she has so many psychosomatic problems.
Right.
And stuff, and it really adds layers to these characters. I think that's something that nobody really gives credit to, Rob White and William Castle for coming up with characters that actually have flesh to them.
Right.
This is a movie based around a gimmick. Let's cut to the chase. And so the characters didn't really have to be 3-dimensional, but they are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Before you start, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you before you even start. To wake her up, does he use sniffing salts?
Yeah, smelling salts.
Yeah.
That's such an old thing. I wonder if they use that still in hospitals and stuff. I bet you they do.
I'm thinking no.
No, not anymore?
I don't think so. Oh. That's a question for your sister.
It's really funny to watch these sports players nowadays using smelling salts to give them a boost.
Right.
It's what are you doing?
Yeah, because I knew he stuck his hand under her nose, and I was like, "Are those smelling salts?"
Dun, dun, dun. It's poppers.
Poppers.
No, we're out of the John Waters month.
But that's what I thought of.
I know, right? I can't see somebody doing that without thinking of poppers now. Thank you, John Waters. But, the idea, speaking of Martha, the idea of having a silent character in a picture with sound, it wasn't fully original to this film. It was probably inspired by the 1946 film The Spiral Staircase. In that movie, a mute young woman is being terrorized by a serial killer who targets disabled women in early 20th century Vermont.
Oh,
a very good movie. I keep mentioning these because I know for some reason these older movies, you're like, wait, what? That sounds interesting.
I know.
They're very interesting movies. And like I said, we've mentioned already, you didn't have the effects and stuff like you do nowadays. So you had to rely on your story.
Right.
To get things across. I mean, William Castle gets to rely on his gimmicks and his marketing, but
there's still a story.
Yeah, there's still a good story here.
Right. I really like them.
Yeah.
So the doctor goes home, and a woman is there waiting on her boyfriend to pick her up because he's late. The doctor apologizes and says that it's all his fault. She says that she wishes that David didn't work for him.
Dun, dun, dun.
The doctor says that he can't waste one of the greatest minds in pathology. But the doctor wants to know where his wife is. And Lucy, the woman, says that she went out about an hour ago. And Lucy wants to know what they're going to do about her. The doctor says it's not her fault because he is a bad husband. Which, okay. This is where the genuine person comes in, okay? He's like, I work all the time and I don't like to go to, what did he say, galas or something like that. And and he was like, and I fall asleep early, or fall asleep during the opera and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But you're a fucking doctor. That doesn't give your wife a right to be a fucking whore.
Dang.
Sorry.
Shots fired. But yeah, again, the story here is actually very interesting, the human drama and stuff. But what I like about it is like he's like, yeah, I'm kind of shitty.
Right. That doesn't give her a right to be shitty. Anyway. So this is where we learn that Lucy is his sister-in-law, and she says that Isabel, his wife, is out with men every night. And he says once him and David are done with this experiment, they will have more time for the women in their lives.
Which is kind of different because, like, you know, movies around this time tended to be misogynistic.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, not forgiving them, but, you know, it was the time.
Right.
Like, and this one really doesn't do that.
It does not do that at all.
Yeah. And you'll notice a lot of William Castle's movies don't do that either. You know, usually he gives women and men the same playing field, like in House on Haunted Hill. You know, in that picture, Vincent Price plays a husband trying to kill his wife, but she's trying to kill him at the same time. You know, he just happens to get one over on her at the end. But they're usually level, which I like about that. Because, I mean, in this movie, you could very well just have these women just be silent set pieces. You didn't... Like, they could have just went that way, but he really, like, Rob White and William Castle really make them characters, which I enjoy. I enjoy about this movie.
Yeah, because Martha could have just been a housewife and Ollie just ran the theater.
Right, because, I mean, this little subplot of their relationships and stuff didn't really necessarily have to be in the movie, but I think it does give it a little bit more, I don't know, texture. You know what I mean?
That's a good word. I was going to say depth. But...
Yeah, well, same thing. Yeah. Now, another little subplot is that of, like we were talking about just now, the dysfunctional relationships, you know, especially of Warren and Isabel.
Yes.
Who we learn is unfaithful to him every chance she gets, like you said. God, shots fired. I'm not saying it, you guys. She said it. She's a woman. She can say that. But you even have that scene later in the movie where he walks in through the front door and he just hears the back door slam. And, you know, he sees little bits like two used wine glasses and stuff. You get it throughout the entire movie. And what's really funny about Warren is, and Vincent Price plays this perfectly, is he is angry about it.
Oh, yeah.
He is a little angry about it, but he plays it off as like, I don't know, like.
He's taking it as his fault because he's working so much. So he's giving her a slide.
Right, but he's also taking little shots at her.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the dialogue.
Oh, yeah. I love that, too.
He stings her. Like, at one point of the movie, and I don't think we really talk about it, but, like, at one point of the movie, he's showing her the cat that's the test subject. And he's like, maybe you two have met in the same alleyway?
Fucking whore.
Oh, God. Now, David is played by Daryl Hickman, who was the fiance in real life to Pamela Lincoln, who plays Lucy in this film.
Oh,
yeah. They were married shortly after this, and I think they had 2 kids, and I think they got divorced in 1982. But at this point, you know,
that's a long time, though.
Yeah, that's a good stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, but Hickman really didn't want to co-star with his wife. You know, probably thinking working with your spouse might lead to turbulence.
Right.
He might have a point since Britt is threatening to kill me in every one of our episodes.
We could never have a job together.
True.
Not where we had to work together.
What if this turns into a full-time job?
I'm going to work. You can do this shit.
Brittany's like,
I'll do my
no,
shit.
We're working separately. But, but William Castle convinced him that it would help Lincoln's career if he did so, though. As I said in our last episode, William Castle was a master at talking you into things. In fact, Castle did such a good job that Hickman worked for no salary in this movie.
What the hell?
Yeah, he worked exclusively just to help his fiance's career. Also, Hickman, the funny part about Hickman is he's 5'10" in real life.
Okay.
So it would have looked very silly to have him, because he's with Vincent Price through most of this movie. Mm-hmm. And he's always standing beside him. So it would have looked really silly to have him right beside Vincent Price, who is 6'4".
Oh,
very tall man. So they fitted Hickman with these lifts to offset the height difference.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and it really, I think it makes him like just at 6 foot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell that Vincent Price is taller than him, but not by a whole lot.
Well, Vincent Price was very imposing. And if you notice in the movies where he plays characters like this, where he's not necessarily a bad guy or anything, mm-hmm. They shoot him in a different way to where he's not towering over everybody.
Right.
But in the films where he is the villain or he is supposed to be imposing, like they film it in a way where he is scarily tall. Like Vincent Price is, man, just his characters. Jesus.
He's a great actor.
Oh, yeah.
So David shows up and tells the doctor that he got a big black cat. The doctor says fear has the same effect on all animals. So I guess they're going to test fear on animals before humans.
Yeah, which, I mean, technically, scientifically, that's the
usually
route
how
you
it
would
goes.
go. Yeah.
So David brings Warren a medicine bottle of some sort. We don't know what it is at the time.
Well, it's LSD.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to tell them
No,
that
that's
yet.
okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's just, there's a very interesting factoid I'm going to throw at you that you're going to be like, man, I wish I lived in the 50s. But go ahead.
So, but David warns him that he doesn't need to be messing with that stuff alone. It has weird effects. Mm-hmm. The doctor then tells David that Martha and her psychosomatic blackout. David wants to experiment with her. He doesn't say it like that, but...
Yeah, they very much kind of toss the idea back and forth here.
Right. So they go to leave, but the doctor stops David again and says that he wants to prove there is something tangible that is causing people to be scared to death. Then he tells David that he wants to call it the Tingler.
You can legitimately be frightened to death. That's a legitimate thing. I think it has to do with more of your endorphins to your brain that causes a heart attack.
I was about to say a heart attack.
Yeah, but like you can legitimately die of fright. Like
I do every day. Bro, there was a spider on the wall today at work. Uh-huh. And luckily, the girl that is terrified of spiders, was facing the other way. And so I looked at my boss and I like pointed without the girl seeing me. And she went to turn around and I like caught her real quick and I was like, oh, let's look at this over
Come
here.
Look at this.
And my boss killed the spider, but the spider was like the size of my fucking hand.
You don't want your tingler to grow.
No, I don't need any growing tinglers. Anyway, and the doctor goes on to say that the only way that they're going to catch it is at the instant of terror. Yeah.
Judith Evelyn, who plays Martha, was actually hired at the request of Vincent Price, who had worked with her on Broadway. She actually had a non-speaking role before this in Hitchcock's Rear Window from 1954. Rear Window is an amazing movie. Now, Judith actually, ironically, had a very amazing speaking voice. So it's really funny to see her do this. And she even took sign language lessons for this role.
Nice.
Like really worked with people who are deaf and stuff and mute. So like, I think that's why her condition comes across genuine.
Right.
You know, it doesn't feel... What is the word we're searching for?
It doesn't feel like they're making fun of it. What is it?
Well, the only thing I got to compare it to is when we would see people smoke joints in these old movies, like weed, and they would start freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like over dramatizing
right.
what it's like to be like this.
And they didn't do that.
No. What I like about the Tingler is instead of stopping the movie dead in the middle, we talked about the way these sci-fi kind of horror movies would do with the creatures. They would stop in the middle for the doctor or scientist to explain what this thing is and how they fight it.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, we actually get to go on the journey of figuring out what this thing is.
Right.
And that's very interesting,
Right. So later on, the doctor is reading about fright effects induced by LSD.
Dun, dun, dun.
He then gets up and sees his wife coming in from her date. Well, she's outside. She's making out with a man. So he grabs his gun and turns off the lights. She sneaks in, but he stops her and calls her out on her bullshit. Because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
She tells him that nothing means anything to him anymore unless they are dead. The doctor wants her to sit down and talk to him. She sits and he says that he makes two suggestions to her. One is to leave Lucy and David alone. So to go in a little bit of background, I had to piece this together because they don't hand it to you.
Yeah. This is pretty interesting, actually, what you're about to go over.
So Lucy and Isabel are sisters, and their parents are dead. We never hear about the mom. We hear about the dad later on. But Isabel is actually guardian over Lucy, and Isabel's supposed to be giving Lucy half of the inheritance. But she refuses to do that, and she doesn't want Lucy to marry David because she says David's too poor. So she doesn't approve, so she's not going to give her the money to support David when he's already poor.
Which, like I said, very interesting little subplot.
Yes, and it took me a minute to put that together. But not too long, I guess I should say.
No, I mean, yeah, they don't spell it out, but it's kind of all there. You kind of get what's going on.
Right. So his other suggestion is that she give half of the money she has to Lucy so Dave can continue pathology. She says that she has a straitjacket in his size, talking about Warren.
Yeah.
Isabel says he needs to remember that everything he has, she paid for. And all she has to do is shut it down and they would have nothing. He says she got all of that money from her father, and it's a pity that he died so suddenly. And he's implying that she killed him.
Which, again, we get more. You're like, wait, what?
Right. We know her parents are dead.
Yeah.
But
it's like,
supposedly,
I thought we were going to watch a movie about a creature, and we're getting all this interesting story and stuff.
Right. She killed her daddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, she says that he can't prove anything. So he tells her that organic poisons don't die in the grave. And then he makes this joke. He's like, and I'm pretty good at autopsy.
Implying that he can figure things out.
Right.
Which again, like this little subplots and stuff, they didn't have to go into this, but they do. And I think William Castle really did love these kind of like weird poisonous fights that couples would get into and stuff like that. He loved this. The back and forth, though, one of the things that really sells these scenes is the back and forth Price has with Patricia Cutts, who plays Isabel here. It's great. They really do a good job at hating one another here.
It's amazing.
But it's not like a straight up angry fight or anything they're having, or they're not yelling and stuff.
No.
It's more like smirking.
And backhanded comments.
Yes. And it's just so delicious.
So he pulls the gun and points it at her. She calls him crazy, and he makes her walk into the other room and tells her that this will be easier to rearrange in the lab, which his lab is in their house.
Yeah.
Which I didn't catch in the beginning, but whatever.
It's not made completely clear because at the beginning, you see him at the, I guess the medical examiner room at the jail?
Probably at the jail.
Or maybe he's running his medical examiner's practice out of his house. I mean, which would have been a common thing.
Right.
People did that back then.
He takes her in there and she says that he needs to stop being so childish. Warren says that she's a good teacher and she taught him how to get what he wants no matter who he hurts. Bum, bum, bum. He says that she needs to give Lucy her money or commit suicide right now. She says murder, and he says when he's done rearranging things, it will look like suicide.
Which again, we're like, whoa, shit is getting real, happening? And we haven't even seen a Tingler at the moment. This is getting insane.
She says that she's not giving Lucy anything, and he can put away the silly pistol. He says the pistol can make a hole in your body the size of a grapefruit. So she starts screaming that she is going to call the police. Mm-hmm. He stops her, and she tries to go out the door, so he shoots her. He picks her up and starts scanning her body under this x-ray machine.
Yeah.
When he's done, he shakes her, and she wakes up. He says it was just a blank and she isn't hurt, but she played her part very excellently.
Which I don't remember this part of the scientific method in school, but it's, I mean, a good idea. Like, right. If you're going to scare somebody, make it real. That's something we kind of learn in this movie, which I like how they kind of touch on it a little bit, where like when you're an adult, things have to be real for you to be scared.
Right.
But this isn't the first film where Price and his wife are trying to kill each other. Like I said, with House on Haunted Hill, you get a lot of this. So if you want more of this kind of back and forth and stuff, it's done insanely well in that movie.
So sometime later, David goes to see the doctor and brings a dog. The doctor says they don't need a dog now. So they go inside and look at the scans and see something on the spine, and they call it the Tingler. The doctor says that they need a specimen to know for sure. So they start going over what they know about the Tingler. 1, it's a thing. 2, it's a solid. 3, fear energizes it. 4, it's in every human being. 5, extremely powerful. And then they go over what they believe that they know,
right,
but they don't know for sure. 1, fear causes the Tingler to spread along the spinal column. 2, the arm-like things forces it to be arched and rigid. 3, screaming paralyzes it or stops it from bending the spinal column, or it might even kill it.
Right.
He says they need someone that can stand the pain without screaming. Hint to Martha. Yeah. He says they will eventually find someone that will die for science.
I love that. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but the Tingler itself, just the idea of this thing, it's actually very scary to me. And it scared the hell out of me when I watched this. I think I watched this for the first time in 99. I believe. I can't remember right. I think this is when the 40th anniversary DVD came out. So yeah, I believe I would have watched that in 99. But it was actually honestly kind of chilling to me. You know, it's just kind of spooky because the idea they put out is we all have a parasite in us just waiting to grow from our fear. And the only thing that stops it is screaming. Kill the Tingler. The design of the Tingler is honestly just a large scale model of a velvet worm, but it's still freaky looking.
Oh yeah.
Velvet worms themselves, or Onychorcophia, I believe is what they're called in scientific terms, are freaky as fuck anyway. First of all, think about this. They haven't changed much evolutionary wise and date back to prehistoric times. They are ambush predators hunting small little invertebrates at night. What they do is they squirt a sticky slime from their heads and that hardens around their prey. Then the worms bite into it, injecting a digestive liquid into the creature, which makes eating it that much easier. So basically it's a spider in worm form.
No, thank you.
Creepy little things. They come in like a variety of colors, like blues and reds and stuff.
Oh, you know they're bad when they're blue and red.
No, right.
Anything blue and red, not good.
Don't go near the velvet worm.
Yes.
It's been said that Rob White conceived of the idea of this thing when he saw a prop rubber worm on set during the filming House on Haunted Hill, which, again, I love just the little things. It's like, I don't know. Wouldn't it be cool to make a horror movie about a worm? Hey, Castle. Castle and White came up with the story around this worm, and they originally called it the chiller. You know,
I think the Tingler is better.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
The Tingler. If they haven't come out with a Tingler themed sex toy, I don't know what we're doing as a society.
Like the worm?
Yeah, and maybe. I mean, think about it. You got those little antennae on top of it. You know, those could really get your clit going. And then you have the head itself. Like, the Tingler could really make you hard and rigid.
Shut the fuck up.
The only way to stop it is to scream. Why are we not doing this? Horror-themed sex toys. We need to have this. Like, we would make billions.
Can you shut the fuck up? Please. Please just stop.
Oh, a Dracula dildo. It's just got a cape.
I don't need a cape on my dildo, thank you.
The funny thing is, people would buy these. Like, you'd be sold out in hours.
Anyway, so Lucy's talking to David, and she says she's worried because Isabel has been nice to her all day.
That's really bad. When the thing you start worrying about someone is if they're being nice to you.
Right. The doctor comes in and says he's trying to scare himself, but nothing is working. He says the only way he can frighten himself is to jump out a window or get run over by a car. Okay, dramatic. Whoa. He says he wants to personally sense the power of the Tingler. And then he would perhaps find out that all the things that they need to know. He then tells David that he can take the night off and him and Lucy can go see a movie.
To me, he kind of is trying to save David from his fate that he's in. It's kind of an interesting, again, back to the little subplots, but it's kind of interesting because he's like, you know what? Go pay attention to your fiance. Like, why don't you just go pay attention to her for the night?
I don't think that he did that for the fate. I think he did that to be left alone so he could do LSD.
Well, that too.
To scare himself.
That too. I mean, but still, I think, I don't know.
I
kind of feel like he doesn't want David to end up in his position.
I don't think it's like that.
No?
No.
Okay. We got different readings.
To me, it's not that way.
That's okay.
So the doctor leaves and goes to the lab, and David's like, this isn't good. So Lucy remembers the drugs that he brought. They go to check out the lab, but the door is locked. They can kind of see in this tall window, and the doctor is locking all of the doors. And
I love the idea of exploring fears. That's very interesting when it comes to horror movies and stuff like that. The idea here that Castle and White had was influenced by the ancient Egyptian belief that the spirit resided in the spine and that evil could be released by drilling into the head.
Oh.
The Egyptians were the original horror creators, I gotta say.
Okay.
Making mummies and everything. I think as a horror fan, I'm constantly trying to scare myself. You're constantly searching for that dragon, chasing it, trying to find that scare. And you watch all these movies, and at the same time, you're making yourself a little numb to being scared.
So you're saying you're a drug addict?
Yes. I would say that feeling of being truly frightened is akin to like doing a drug. Like, right. It's very much like that. It's true. For it to hit nowadays, it has to be real.
Oh yeah.
But when we were kids, we could sit around and scare the shit out of ourselves. You could turn off the lights and be scared as a kid. Yes. It was really easy. Well, what's your biggest fears you have now that you're older, though?
Oh, damn. I scare myself all the time. I have nightmares all the time.
Really? Oh,
my brain scares me.
What is it that like gets you going?
It's always about the kids, like the kids dying or
see. It always pertains to real life.
Yeah,
it's not like a scarecrow or like a fucking werewolf anymore. No, that was our fears when we were kids. It's very interesting how your fears really do change over time.
Oh yeah,
stuff like that. I mean, fears nowadays are viruses.
Yes.
COVID is a very real fear that we all have. We all share in that.
Not all of us.
Oh God,
that's a whole different podcast.
People on their freedom phones, but we'll cover that. We're going to talk about the freedom phone on Shooting the Shit this Friday.
Okay,
but is there anything a horror movie could do to scare you more? in it. Like, because I believe, like, when you get older and you're watching a lot of these horror movies, unless you can, like myself, I can really disband my disbelief. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I can really soak myself into it to where I do get scared a little bit, like not as much as it would have been when I was younger. But there are moments where I do have that fear. But with you being someone who isn't like a huge fan of these, is there anything horror movies that you have seen or that you would like to see? Like, what could they do to really get into your Tingler?
I don't know, honestly, because I just look at these as a movie.
Oh, they're fun stories.
Yeah.
I get you. Nothing's really tapped into your fear yet. I do believe, was it Halloween that got you a little bit? Or was it Nightmare on Elm Street?
Nightmare on Elm
Yeah,
Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street got you a little.
I think that's because I have nightmares. I think that it really like spoke to me as someone. I
Right.
do have nightmares. I have panic attacks from my nightmares. I wake up crying. It's bad.
So that got you.
Yeah.
Just the thought of a dream demon being able to kill you in your sleep.
Right. Yeah, that was really spooky. But other than that, like, I don't know. It hasn't really like scared me. I guess if they like wrote a really good like storyline movie about like kidnappings.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few of those, but they're more told in thrillers, you know?
Right. We'd have to have a really good storyline because anyone that I've seen before didn't have a very good storyline.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot, so that's not saying
that's okay.
anything.
There are some of those out there. I suppose that could be something I would tap in. But I'm interested if we'll get to a horror movie on the show to where you're like, that was fucking terrifying.
Probably
Like,
not.
I wonder.
You're like, I gotta figure it out now.
I'm going to figure it out.
So the doctor is talking in the recorder and saying that an average injection is 50 micromilligrams.
Which you were like, I don't think that's a real measurement.
It is.
But what did you say? It's another word for...
nanograms.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure back in that day that was micromilligrams.
Yeah.
And now it's nanograms.
Right. You got to make it sound a little bit better. But me, with measurements and stuff, I get, what is it? The one I keep saying every once in a while? Megagrams? like a fucking transformer? Megagram. You have to, because I'm like, what is it, like 9 megagrams or something? You're like, megagrams don't exist.
It's called a macrogram. Macro being big, micro being small.
Megagram.
I don't know. Megagrams could be a thing, but it doesn't sound right to me.
I don't think a megagram is a thing.
Anyway, so he takes the injection and sits down. He says his vision is blurring, but he doesn't feel weird. Lucy asks David what that stuff does, and he says you have nightmares while you're wide awake. Life, everyday life. Life in 2021.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a living fucking nightmare.
So the doctor says the room is tilting now from side to side, and he's starting to feel apprehensive. He puts the mic down and starts walking around and says the room is closing in. And Lucy wants to go in to help him, but David says he's fine and there isn't anything he can do now.
He's tripping.
Right.
It's too late now.
And the doctor starts to freak out more and says he can't scream. And he bites his hand trying not to scream.
He tries not to scream so he can feel the tingler.
Right. But he does scream and then falls over.
Which we get a cameo from Ivan, our studio skeleton.
Yes. I was like, Ivan, is that you?
Which, knowing what I know now, that was probably a real human skeleton.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. The Tingler, though, is the first film to depict LSD, like an LSD trip on screen.
Nice.
Like, so at the time, this is really fun, but at the time, LSD was still legal in the U.S. It was legal to just go out and get some LSD.
Nice.
It wouldn't be classified as an illegal substance until 1971. So people were dropping acid all over the place. Rob White actually drew on his own experience with the drug. I think during college, his time as a student, he tried it. And White thought price went a little over the top, but apparently the things Warren experiences here are kind of close to what you might feel when you have a bad trip.
Oh,
like, so that's what's going on. Because you notice, like, he goes to the window and he's like, it's barred. I can't, but he's
opening it. And he's like, it's barred. It's
barred.
locked.
Window's locked. And he's like loosening his tie. He can't breathe and stuff. The walls are closing in. But yeah. So and like drugs in movies didn't really, especially horror movies, like you didn't really get those until later on and stuff, like in the 80s and 90s and stuff. They really started experimenting with that.
Right.
The 70s had a few. Late 60s, I think, into the 90s was when you saw horror movies with drugs, like depicting drug trips.
Or marijuana.
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I believe horror always understood what marijuana was. I don't know if you noticed that in like old comedies and stuff when they would smoke a joint and they'd start hallucinating.
Those are not hash brownies. You know what movie I'm talking about?
Put your clothes back on, white boy. What was that, Euro Trip?
Yes. And then they were like, oh, wait, we're not high.
But they always got smoking marijuana wrong and stuff like that. But in horror, it seemed like everybody understood what the fuck it was. Like you see in some of these horror movies, like people just smoking a joint like it's nothing.
Right.
Like, because I think everybody smoked weed.
Right.
I mean, you got to come up with some of this.
Yes, the Tingler.
The Tingler. Do you think William Castle smoked some weed? I don't know. Maybe.
Why not?
Maybe. I don't know. It would have been fun. Like William Castle is one of those. He's on my list of people I wish were alive to interview, because it seems like he had such a fun time with this kind of subject matter and stuff like that. He would have been great to talk to about. Right.
So David and Lucy go into the lab and they get the doctor all sobered up. He says the pain...
Gotta get him some orange slices and sit in the chill out tent.
He says the pain and fear were so great that he had to scream. Then he gets an idea and he leaves.
Hang on.
And Lucy's questioning where he's going, and David says, a deaf mute can't scream.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun.
So the doctor goes to the theater to see Ollie. He says that he's worried about Martha, and Ollie says that he's been worried about her also because she hasn't eaten or slept ever since the blood.
Yeah, because during that, we learned blood freaks her out. So this theater, the Higgins Run, was inspired by the silent movie theater in Los Angeles. It was founded in 1942. Oh, I'm sorry. Was inspired by a silent movie that actually existed in Los Angeles. It was founded in 1942 by Dorothy and John Edward Hampton. This theater was indeed running the older silent pics, like that of Charlie Chaplin.
Oh.
And it was attracting a younger film audience during the 1950s that would flock to see these silent films of the past, and kind of like how we do today. The Circle Cinema runs some old movies and all us young people go out to see them because it's the only way you could see them in the theater.
Right.
I believe it closed down in 1980 following the Hamptons' retirement, but it was reopened in the 90s. But the new owner was gunned down by a hitman hired by a scorned projectionist.
Oh, shit. You can't piss off your projectionists.
Yeah, man. Dude, those projectionists have it rough, man. But last I heard, it was now owned by the Cine family, who does continue the silent films once a week. But I actually have no idea if that's still the case because of COVID times made everybody shutter up things.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting to point out that there are movie theaters that still do run those silent flicks.
That's nice.
And it would be nice to actually go see a Charlie Chaplin film in a theater.
He's the one that you had me look up last time, right?
Right. We covered him in episode 1 of our miniseries on movie gimmicks. Yeah,
then I know who you're talking about.
Which, by the way, you guys, if you really want to see a lot of these older pictures that we're talking about, some of the silent films, especially like the Charlie Chaplin movies, they have them on HBO Max.
Oh,
like
nice.
HBO Max has been taking over my streaming thing. It's been amazing. I mean, that new Space Jam was more like watching Warner Brothers and LeBron James jerk each other off, but
Nice.
Yeah. That movie was awful.
Oh no.
It was bad.
So the doctor offers to go and check Martha out, and he goes upstairs, and they end up scaring each other. But he checks her out and says he's going to give her a shot to relax because she needs to sleep. He gives her the shot and tells her to go to sleep, and he leaves. He then gives Ollie a prescription of sleeping pills to pick up for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny because he's like, I'm going to write you a prescription for barbiturates. And she's looking at him and he was like, sleeping pills.
Sleeping pills.
He didn't say it like that because he was very nice about it. But like.
So what did he give her? Did he give her some LSD here?
That was my impression.
Question. Yeah, that I wanted, because I don't know if he did that so he could, but he leaves, so he can't really study the effects it has on her.
Maybe he was being genuine.
Oh, like he literally did, like maybe gave her a sedative?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either because we'll talk about it in a minute. So later, Martha wakes up and watches the window close and the chair rock and the door shut. She gets up and pulls the sheet back on Ollie's bed, and there's like, I called it a zombie-like thing, and I'll tell you what it is in a little bit. And it has a sword. So she runs out of the room and the lights start going out. She's standing against this door that's open now, and this hand reaches out with an axe. So she sees the axe and runs off, and the person throws the axe at her.
Which I love. I don't know. I love these old school effects with the axe throwing and stuff. That's pretty cool, man. It was a pretty cool little scene.
Oh, yeah. Well, he misses, doesn't hit her.
Yeah.
So she runs to the bathroom, and this is where she sees blood in the sink and in the bathtub. It's like filled with blood.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this is in color.
Yes.
This is the only part of the movie that's in color.
It's like, because, I mean, this movie has like 3 gimmicks associated with it, and this is one of them.
The blood. I like that.
Yeah. But only the blood is in color. Everything else is monochrome.
Right. So she tries to run out the door, but it's locked, and something starts coming out of the tub, and she freaks out. The med cabinet swings open, and we see her death certificate. She freaks out more and falls over. She faints.
Dead. So this amazing scene where our black and white picture takes on a vivid red color of the blood here. It looks great. And of course you have that hand that comes out of the fucking bathtub covered in blood and stuff.
That's freaky as shit.
It was cool, man. It's pretty effective even today.
Oh, yeah.
I think that scene, because you're watching a black and white movie and you do not expect it.
No.
It's something I didn't tell you about.
No.
I left that a mystery because I really wanted to see your reaction. Now, the movie was filmed in black and white, of course, but this sequence was actually filmed in color, with a color film that was spliced into the movie after. Now Castle accomplished this by, and this is pretty cool, painting the entire set of this bathroom black and white and using silver and gray makeup on Martha to simulate a monochrome effect of her. Nice. And stuff. Yes, you can tell because this portion of the movie looks very rough. Like if you notice, like the quality kind of goes down and stuff like that. So you can definitely tell it's filmed in another type of film.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like it's the creepiest part of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Like it's legitimately horror.
Yes. Yes.
Now we talked last week about how the film Diabolique inspired Castle to get into making movies, really. And this scene, honestly, it has to be inspired by that, because in Diabolique, guys, I can't pronounce things. There is a whole death scene filmed with a bathtub. And honestly, that scene, though, in that movie is much more disturbing. It's very hard to watch because they're drowning this guy. But he's not dead. He's just paralyzed. So they hold him under the water and you can see his face.
Oh, shit.
And then she's like, go get the statue off the mantle. It's disturbing. That movie, it's in French, but it has English subtitles. But you can watch that on HBO Max.
Oh, nice.
Again, I can't point it out enough that you guys have to go back and watch these older movies.
Yes, you do. So the doctor is back home and the phone is ringing. He answers and no one's there. And then he notices that this is where you had talked about when he walked in the door, he heard the slam.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't catch that, but whatever. But he notices that there are 2 cups on the table and makes a comment to Isabel about them. Then the doorbell rings and it's Ollie, and he says that Martha is sick and maybe dead by now. He has her in the car and they bring her into the lab. The doctor checks her out and says, look, she's dead.
She's dead, bro.
Then he starts asking exactly what happened. And then he says from her expression, something must have terrified her before she had died, and asks what it was. Ollie says he doesn't know because when he got back up, she was just on the floor in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Then under the sheet, Martha sits up and then lays back down.
Now that shit's creepy, man.
Yeah.
And they don't really explain why this happens.
Right.
Or how the Tingler's able to do this. But at the very end, there's this like, whoa, what? What else can this Tingler do?
Right. What else can this I asked myself that all the time.
How many vibration settings does this Tingler have? I'm telling you, the Tingler would make a good sex toy.
So the doctor checks her again and says she's not alive and something frightened her. And then he asks Ollie if he can check her out to find out what's going on, and Ollie agrees. And
I notice as the story gets more tense here, like you actually got into the mystery and the motives of the characters. Like you seem to like really be like, wait, who did it? What's going on?
Yes. And I was like, I know what happened. I mean, it didn't exactly happen like I thought, but it was good.
Again, like compliments to Rob White and William Castle. Like there is a good story.
Yes.
Like it's not just a gimmick movie. Like
right.
You would think that that's all this movie was. Mm-hmm. Like by our last episodes, and then like just people talking about it, because mostly it's the gimmick of the movie. Percepto is what remains in the oeuvre or whatever you want to call it of people's minds and stuff, because that was so groundbreaking at the time. Of course it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, right? But you do get surprised that there is a legitimately good story going on and a mystery at the same time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
So the doctor starts the autopsy and ends up pulling out the Tingler from her body.
It's kind of gross because it's dripping.
Yes.
And they do more of this by shadow because he's behind a curtain, which again, I love the use of shadows in these movies.
Yes. The Tingler tries to attach to the doctor's arm and he screams and it falls off. Isabella runs in the room and she ends up taking something off the counter and leaving. Mm-hmm. She takes it into the other room and pours it in a glass. Ollie says he wants to take Martha home and call the coroner in the morning. So as Ollie is leaving, the doctor tells him he needs to call the police.
Yeah. Hey, you have a dead person. You need to tell somebody about this, not just me.
Right. So Ollie leaves and Isabel tells the doctor that she wants to celebrate him finding the Tingler.
Which you should be immediately.
Yeah, you found the Tingler.
Finally, you found the Tingler.
Maybe we'll stay married now. Oh, that wasn't funny until just now.
Let this be a lesson to you guys out there. Be sure to find the Tingler.
Yes. Oh. Anyway, she wants to celebrate. Uh-huh. And she says that she's been jealous of his work. She hands him a cup, and he says he wants the other one.
Yeah, he knows.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, she says, cheers to the Tingler and his new wife, because she's going to reinvent herself or some shit.
Yes, he should. Like, you should be immediately.
Yeah.
This is suspicious about this woman.
What are you doing?
Especially when everybody's like, she's being nice. Right. Which I do understand that they're coming down hard on Isabel in this movie a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what a bitch.
She's a bitch.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess he could have like paid more attention, been a more,
Okay,
attentive
I
husband,
get that, but does that mean that she needs to be a tramp?
Damn. Brittany went old school with that one. That damn tramp.
Does she need to be like
What a hussy.
that night walker?
That scarlet woman.
She just needs a big red A on her. Anyway.
Oh, shit.
She then asks if the Tingler. Oh my god. She then asks if the Tingler is really dangerous.
I mean, I guess if you flick it good enough, it could be. Like, you know, if somebody has a heart problem, you don't want to hit their Tingler just right, you know? Consult your doctor.
Or a seizure disorder.
Yeah, you know.
That tingle turned into a rattle.
Yeah. I mean, you be careful. Consult your doctor before involving your Tingler in anything new.
Or don't. That's weird.
Yeah, that would be weird. It's like, I want to do anal. Like, is that cool? I can see a doctor's face. Like, sure, bro. Fuck. I don't care.
Anyway, the doctor says that his arm felt like it was in a hydraulic press.
That hydraulic press line was a nod to The Fly, slipped in there by Rob White, because in that movie, the scientist kills himself by putting his fly arm and fly head inside of a hydraulic press.
Nice.
Again, these old movies were violent. So we get a real good look at the Tingler.
You got to look at it good.
Yeah, you want to make sure you locate the Tingler. And this brings up another idea I had, that this is a classic body horror flick. You know, I mentioned it earlier. Years before Cronenberg would make body horror flicks, amazingly, like Cronenberg's the king of body horror, but this one was doing it, you know, before then. As Warren pulls the Tingler out, like I said, it's really gross.
Yeah.
But you don't actually see it. That's what's great. It's dripping a viscous fluid and stuff, and you do see that it's slimy later on, but not seeing the process of pulling it from Martha honestly works on your imagination.
Oh, yeah.
I think in the same way the Texas Chainsaw Massacre convinced us all that it's a gory movie, even though it's not when you actually sit down and analyze it.
So the phone rings, and it's Ollie, and the doctor starts acting funny from being drugged. Mm-hmm. Ollie says that the police said to let it go till morning. You fucking liar. So the doctor passes out and Isabel hangs up on him. Ollie hangs up too and goes to clean his things up.
Yeah.
He was the one that I called the zombie thing earlier. It was just a mask.
Yeah, he had a mask and stuff.
And he set up all that stuff to scare his wife to death.
Which is really funny, because if divorce wasn't such the horrifying thing it was, like, I don't think you'd have any spousal deaths. Like, can we make divorce free? Can we just do that?
Murder is free.
That's why people murder instead of getting divorced. I mean, really, you shouldn't get married unless you're absolutely sure, but
things change, okay? People change.
True. I've changed and you're still here for some reason.
I'm plotting.
Shit.
But as the Tingler taught me.
Yeah, I thought you were supposed to be giggling.
As the Tingler taught me, organic poisons stay in the system. So I got to figure some shit out.
See, yeah. The Tingler has some legitimate science to it.
I just need some insulin.
I'm so sorry. Oh, God.
Anyway, back at the doctor's house, Isabel takes the Tingler into where the doctor is passed out and lets it out of the box. It starts to crawl on the doctor and choke him. Lucy walks in and hears what's going on, and she goes to check it out. And she screams when she sees the Tingler, and it lets go.
Which luckily we have Lucy coming in. Yeah. Whoa. Isabel tries to commit murder via Tingler here. You gotta really hate your husband. Would you release the Tingler on? Oh, God. You answered that before I got finished with the question. Oh, well, I'll make sure there's no Tinglers in this house. I just got a picture of a vibrator on my chest, just going crazy. Anyway, a lot of viewers like to say that this is unintentionally funny. I don't agree.
No.
I think William Castle knew what he was doing with this film. Honestly, this movie kind of does what some family animated films do these days, you know. There's a lot of great stuff for younger viewers to latch onto, to have a good time with. You know, it's spooky. It has some creepy creature running around, and it's a pretty simple plot that you can kind of get. But at the same time, for adults, you have all these subplots and relationship dramas and little things to grasp onto yourself, and nods to classic films, and that appeals to adults and stuff like that. I think Castle knew this, and I think he wanted to craft movies for everyone to watch, not just kids and not just adults.
Right.
You know, he wanted everyone to enjoy
a family-friendly horror,
because it really is. I mean, even by those standards back then, you know, this, like I said, horror mainly appealed to kids when it was first out and stuff like that. But this is, you know, it can appeal to both crowds. I mean, if you look at the stuff he made, like Homicidal, he was very capable of directing a film with some very heavy themes. Homicidal is very good.
Yeah.
But for flicks like this and House on Haunted Hill, I feel like he knew the humor he wanted in this movie, you know? It's
oh, yeah.
And it's not like laugh out loud funny.
But you got a fucking caterpillar killing people.
Yes,
okay? Like,
yes. He knew that was silly.
Right. And that's okay.
But yeah, he knew that it would get a laugh as well as scare people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's what he was wanting. That's what he was going for with this movie.
So some point later, the Doctor and David are trying to figure out how to destroy the Tingler. And they can't do it. David says the doctors at the convention are going to be amazed. And Warren says that he's not taking this to the convention.
Yeah.
He also isn't going to write anything in the journals about it. He says they violated human principles and they need to stop because he has ethics.
Yeah, yeah.
He says they can't destroy the Tingler because it needs to go back where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So the Doctor tells David to call Ollie and find out where...
That knocked over a can. Ooh, it's the Tingler.
They need to find out where Martha is because he thinks that Martha is probably at a cemetery, not a cemetery, a funeral home or something like that. What did he call it? I don't remember. Anyway, he says because its creator is dead and all fear is gone and it will die too if they put it back.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucy comes in and says Isabel is gone and she left with her clothes and things. David says the coroner and the police have no report of Martha's death. Ollie, what the fuck you doing, bro?
And Isabel just basically said, so long, movie.
Yeah. Fuck y'all. Bye. So the Doctor wants David to call Ollie until he answers. He's like, call him until he answers, whatever. And to tell him to not do anything stupid. Then he leaves to go and try and help him. Yeah,
because I mean, Warren here knows what's up. Like he knows he has a suspicion. Jesus, I can't talk. But you also got to wonder. Like one thing that was kind of eating at me is, do you think Warren killed Isabel?
Warren?
Yeah. Do you think he may have killed her?
Oh, killed Isabel.
Yeah. You think maybe?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I think they would have shown it if he did.
Maybe. I don't know. But of course, in all your science fiction horror flicks around this time, there is always that idea that humans are playing with destructive forces that they don't fully understand. And of course, they don't really listen to that objection. And that choice leads to mayhem. Mayhem. Now, keep in mind that in 1945, we dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, contributing to the end of the Second World War and ushering in the Cold War. This was a heavy fear of the regular public who had it. I mean, you would say that like tinkering with such forces was playing God or like going too far and stuff. And horror movies really focused mainly on nuclear monsters during the 50s. So it had its eye on that kind of fear. You know, I believe that with every decade, horror movies, they set out to be escapism, but at the same time, they keep their eye on the fears of that decade.
Right.
Like, I think after the pandemic is fully gone, it'll never be fully over, as we found out. But when it's lifted and like it's a thing of the past and it's something we get to reflect on, I think the horror movies coming out after will reflect on that time.
Yeah, for sure.
The fear that will linger that we have over catching a pandemic virus. I think you're going to see a lot more horror movies come out like that.
Are we going to have a COVID monster that like comes to life and like
maybe
makes you cough to death?
The Tingler too. But anyway, not saying that the Tingler is an atomic monster though. I'm not really saying that, but it does fit the bill on our fears of science during this time.
Oh, yeah.
We had a fear of science. The scientist always just keeps going with no abandon to what he might release, as we see. And that's what Warren gets at when he makes that little speech about playing with stuff that they don't fully understand.
Right. So Ollie is packed and trying to leave, but first he has to get the money.
Gotta get that money.
when he goes to get the money, the doctor knocks on the door and Ollie answers it. Ollie says that he's moving because it's too gloomy here.
He is the worst fucking liar.
Yes. He's like, it's too gloomy.
It's too, the clouds.
Yeah.
Sun.
I don't think he meant gloomy like weather. I think he meant gloomy like sad.
Oh, it's too sad. I gotta go. Bye. I'm going to go work in a cafe somewhere. I don't want to do this theater shit no more.
So the doctor opens the suitcase and asks, he sees the mask and all this stuff. And he asks if he killed her. And Ollie says he didn't.
I just carry around a zombie mask with me, man. This is my thing.
And a sword and
don't be
a mechanical hand.
Don't be kink shaming me.
Oh my gosh. So the doctor wants to know where she is. And he finds her in the bed. Ollie says that the doctor just doesn't understand what it's like to be married to her and that she tried to kill him multiple times.
Which you're like, wait, what?
Yes.
Like, what was going on in this marriage? Hang on.
Right.
Which again, like all the relationships in this movie are strained like hell. Lucy and David are the only ones who kind of are okay.
Right. And I know why she tried to kill him.
Why is that? Because I wondered that. Like,
it's because they run a business together.
No.
And fuck that shit.
Yeah, good point.
You were like, oh, wait, what? You didn't expect me to say that.
But I found the Tingler, so I think I'll be okay.
They did have separate beds.
Oh, man, everybody had separate beds back in the day. I
Yes.
guess, like, what would you do to have sex? Like, you just push the beds together? Was that a good night?
No.
Like,
People
hey,
were
Martha, we're pushing the beds together tonight.
No, people were skinny back then, so they just had sex on the twin bed.
Oh, yeah, obesity wasn't much of a problem.
Right. So the doctor says that he is going to put the Tingler back where it came from, and when he is done, he's going to call the police. The Tingler ended up breaking out of the box during this thing.
With help from wires.
And the doctor is now frantic to find him. Then they realize that the Tingler went through the floor to the theater. Ollie says that he's going to warn the people, but the doctor tells him no, because that will cause a panic.
There's a monster loose in the theater. Which is something they actually do.
I know, right?
Like the gimmick. Of course, you can totally see the wires in this movie. And again, I've said this 1,000 times before, but I just find it so charming. I love it. Like, there is a special edition floating around where they removed the wires, and I was like, nah, man. I mean, that's why I'm working off an old DVD here from 1999. The one I showed you, because it has the wires in it. Like, because a lot of people ask me, well, why spend the money on these out of print DVDs and stuff like that when you can just spend the same amount on a brand new 4K or a Blu-ray and stuff like that of the same movie with tons of bonus features and stuff. And this is why, because people tend to want to remove those wires, and I'm like, why would you do that? Like, you're not making the Tingler seem more real.
Right.
It's a puppet.
And we know it is.
Yeah. That's not the appeal to this movie, is the realism. I love seeing how the donuts are made. It's the best way to go about it. It's interesting,
Okay.
Donuts. Also, like, I don't know if you noticed this during these older movies that we cover, but another thing I love is the sound design. You know, I like there's certain sounds are more pronounced. You can hear footsteps on wood and stuff, and I think that's the Foley artists and stuff like that. But you also hear creaks of chairs, like when they sit in those wooden swivel chairs.
Yeah.
You hear it go and stuff like that. and of course, there's like this white noise on the soundtrack when no music and no dialogue is going, and I love that too. Because it's almost like you can hear the room noises in these movies.
It makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels more real. Like, I don't know how to compare it, because you compare it to movies nowadays and you don't hear shit that's going on. Like, I'm going to take people out of some of these movies that come out nowadays, but like, you're in New York City and you don't hear any road noises.
Yeah, that's not
like,
going to happen.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
But here in this, like, sometimes if they were in a city and stuff, they would add noises in to make it feel more genuine.
See, that's perfect.
Right.
So the Tingler is now wandering around the theater, and we see a man and a woman on a date, and the man is wanting to kiss the woman, but she does not want to be kissed. So the Tingler crawls on this woman's leg, and she starts to scream. So the doctor turns off all the lights in the theater, then makes an announcement that the woman is fine and there's no cause for alarm. Oh, then they turn the lights back on. The men go in and look and can't find it. And the Tingler makes its way to the movie reel. And that is what we see going across the screen is the shadow.
Yeah, you see the Tingler. It's shadow.
Yes. So the doctor makes another announcement that the people need to scream for their lives, but don't panic.
Don't panic. Just scream.
Just scream.
Make sure you're screaming.
He tells them to keep screaming and scream for their lives. They find the Tingler under the stage and say that it's been paralyzed by their screaming, and there's no more danger, and they will resume the movie.
Now, these two blackout scenes, because we didn't talk about this in the movie gimmick episodes, but you have two here, which is very interesting. These little scenes where the screen goes black and you hear Vincent Price talking. This is, of course, the Percepto gimmick. And during the second blackout, when you hear the screaming and Vincent Price telling everybody scream to live, that's when the buzzers would go off.
Oh.
Keep in mind, the theater is dark. Like, when this screen goes black, that's what you would experience in the theater. The screen would go black and you just hear sound and people be screaming all around you and shit like that.
Oh,
it would be a terrifying experience.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone who got to 10 back then, like in the day, has said it was loads of fun. I think I even mentioned John Waters, who is a huge William Castle fan. He said, like, after he saw it the first time, he would go see it again, but he would try to find the seats that were wired up, like, so he'd get the full effect.
Nice.
You know, and people did that. It was so fun. It scared you and honestly made you feel like you were part of the picture. You know, now for the drive-in audiences, you would be asked to flash your lights during the scene. William Castle recorded a separate little blackout scenes for the drive-in theater. So even there, you could have some fun with it. The cost of buzzers under some seats actually made up for $250,000 of the film's $400,000 budget. So, so most of the money spent on this movie went to the gimmick.
Nice.
Also, part of this gimmick would be actors in the audience who would pretend to faint. You'd have one woman who would pretend to faint and then be carried out on a stretcher. And that's during that first blackout that we see here, where Vincent Price is telling you someone fainted. It's all good. So yeah, during that first blackout, somebody would act like they would collapse and stuff and then be carried out on a stretcher and stuff. Mm-hmm. And of course you had medical people waiting in the lobby and stuff. That was part of the gimmick and shit like that. So I mean, really, that's very inventive.
Oh yeah.
You would be scared.
I would have been scared. Yeah. If I saw that now, I would have been scared.
Right? Like, it's funny that they don't do that now. They probably couldn't because of lawsuits. I'm sure somebody would find I'm sure somebody would find a way to sue. But I would give anything to watch the film this way, though. Like, that's my thing. Like, it would be so much fun. Oh, well, by the way, the movie they're watching here is the 1921 silent film Tullable David.
Why do you say it like that?
I don't know. Because it's a factoid that probably no one cared about.
So they go up to the projection booth, and the projectionist is being strangled by the Tingler.
But a hard job the projectionist had.
Yes.
Like, you have to turn on the effects William Castle told you about. You had to fucking do halftime to run these fucking movies and shit like this. And you could be strangled by a Tingler. It's hardcore, man. It's a hardcore job.
Oh my gosh.
The risks.
But of course he screams and the Tingler stops.
The projectionist was actually played by a guy named Dale McKinnon. He had a successful career as a voice actor and stuff like with the Woody Woodpecker Show and a few Disney movies like Lady and the Tramp. I believe he played Tuffy, Professor, and Pedro in that movie.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Also, he was the voice of Salem in the original 1971 animated series Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Nice. So they grab the Tingler.
You're like, nobody needed that.
So they grab the Tingler.
You gotta grab the Tingler.
And they take it back to where Martha is. Stop it. Ollie says that he got the idea from the doctor to kill her with the Tingler. The doctor says it doesn't matter how you commit murder. You still did it.
Yeah, he's like, just because someone puts the idea that this exists doesn't mean you can use it on someone.
Right. Ollie says that they're going to electrocute him, and the doctor says he's going to the police station with him.
Yeah.
So Ollie pulls a gun. He's going to go by himself, talking about the doctor's going to go to the police by himself. Yeah. The doctor leaves and says he's going to go downstairs and call the police. Because, I mean, what do you do at that point, right?
Yeah.
So Ollie puts the gun in his pocket and goes to leave, but the door closes and locks before he can get out. Martha sits up and just stares at him.
Now, this part is what I was talking about earlier. The idea that the Tingler controlling things somehow?
I think so.
Like controlling the body after it's been put back in. That's kind of fucking scary. This is like a sequel setup.
Yes.
We could have had a Tingler 2, The Tingling.
The Tingling.
Hey, man, it's a good idea. Well, also, Ollie is so terrified he is unable to scream. So I'm sure he's going to be taken down by the Tingler. So perhaps the Tingler has found a new way to feed on fear. Kind of spooky.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
So then we hear a voice, and it says, if any of you are not convinced you have the Tingler of your own, the next time you are frightened in the dark, don't scream.
And be sure to trim your fingernails.
Huh?
Well, if you find your Tingler, you gotta.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Keep those fingernails trim. But anyway, or at least the first two.
That's why I always bite my nails.
Yeah, there you go. Now, The Tingler was released upon audiences in August of 1959, and the reviews were mixed. A few critics found his films dull already. A lot of people said that back in the day, a lot of film critics, the snooty ones that didn't like horror, they weren't swayed by this, and they would always call William Castle's movies dull. And I couldn't disagree more. Right. I don't think anything about this is dull.
Oh, I don't either.
No. Other critics praised the film as being highly entertaining and the gimmick of Percepto being effective because it put the filmgoer in the center of the horror. It truly does. Like I said, think about being in the audience and the lights just go off and you just hear Vincent fucking Price telling you to scream for your life. That's scary.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Of course, years later, especially after his death, I don't think William Castle could foresee the staying power of his films. I mean, we're doing an entire episode about it right now, so that's got to mean something. The mix of imagination and writing, the mix of imaginative writing, creepy scenes, and the humor in this movie makes it a perfect campy horror movie and very, very watchable.
Yes.
It has that rewatchability factor to it as well. And honestly, I always have a good time with this one, no matter how many times I watch it. I'm always shocked that I'm still having a good time. Right. However, I got to say, I do get a twinge of jealousy here and there because I want to see this movie with the Percepto gimmick so badly. Yes. But also, The Tingler, it's a good horror movie. And it has a nice, simple story and also has a few interesting bits of human drama thrown in to make it even more interesting, making it, I think, more than just a gimmick film, But enough of my thoughts. What did you think about William Castle's The Tingler from 1959?
I really liked it.
Did it hit your tingler? I'm sorry. Continue with your thought.
I didn't like it like that.
That'd be weird.
Just horny from watching this movie.
I've been horny during a horror movie.
But not The Tingler.
No, not The Tingler. There's nothing horny about The Tingler.
But I really liked it.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what was I saying?
Well, we will cover some more William Castle movies in the future. Are you excited about those?
Yes, I am actually.
Yeah.
I like the acting. The acting was amazing. There was nobody that was a bad actor in this movie.
And that's the thing is a lot of people say, William Castle's movies had over the top acting. And I was like, man, you haven't seen trauma movies. But,
right.
But I feel like the acting in his films were great. And that's what sold these stories, because all the stories in his films, except for, like I said, the more serious ones, like Homicidal and Straight Jacket and stuff with the stuff he did with Joan Crawford. Those are more serious, but most of the storylines in these kind of movies are ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about it. You got a worm going around scaring, feeding off of people's spine fear and screaming kills it. It's a ridiculous thing, but the acting is what sells it.
Oh yeah. And the storyline was fantastic. Yeah. And like we had talked about, the 3-dimensional characters.
Yeah, you have fleshed out characters here.
Yeah.
And like I said, the women, they could have just been prop pieces in this flick. We didn't technically need any of the subplots, and we didn't need them to be anything else but just there.
Right.
But we got more. We got more from them.
And we got lots from them.
Yeah.
They were important to the story.
Yeah. The Tingler, honestly, in its own movie, takes the backdrop.
That's what I was going to say, too.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed this. But since the invention of the internet,
oh God,
we can always find someone who hates this movie.
Of course.
For all the wrong reasons. So let me read off a review on IMDb that gave the Tingler a 3 out of 10. Mostly because lack of misogyny is what I'm getting from this, is his complaint. God. So from user Strong122, this reads, after all the great stuff I've heard over the years about the Tingler, and apparently it being William Castle's triumph of B-movie horror, I have to admit that I was left feeling completely cheated and totally let down this time by the master of gimmicks. With what seemed like an endless soap opera of tiresome bickering between Dr. Chapin and his slutty wife, Isabel, it took this film a good half hour before the story even started coming alive.
That's not fucking true. Anyway, sorry.
That's okay. Get mad. It's getting worse. And even at that point, it wasn't for another 20 minutes before things really started to cook. And then it was another 10 minutes before the Tingler actually made its much anticipated screen appearance. With there now being only 20 minutes left in the story, it wasn't until the very last... This guy really loves his minutes. It wasn't until the very last 10 minutes that the Tingler, in its feeble manner, finally breaks loose and terrorizes the screaming patrons in the rickety old movie theater. Besides the fact that the Tingler's appearance, which was similar to that of an oversized centipede, was strictly a laughing matter, it was also quite obvious to see that it was just a piece of rubber. Yes, it was 1959.
No shit.
You asshat. But I got my biggest chuckle at this creature. I got my biggest chuckle as this creature hobbled around on the floor of the theater while seeming to keep its movements in time with the ricky-ticky piano music that was being played to accompany the feature film, which was a silly, melodramatic silent picture.
Did he watch a movie? He watched... He didn't listen.
It didn't help matters much that I think, this is what gets me. I think actor Vincent Price, who played the lead character, really sucked. His lisping effeminacy made him completely unconvincing as a man who landed himself such a hot and wealthy wife as Isabel. I think that the Tingler story had a lot of potential, but in the long run, it didn't even come anywhere near to living up to its possibilities or its reputation. Yep, the king of gimmicks, William Castle, really bombed with this one.
I want to throat punch this dude.
Again, his main complaint, it seems, is that Vincent Price wasn't enough of a man in this movie.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. Again, I love, for some of these movies that are real classics that everybody agrees that is a classic, whether you like it or not. We all understand.
Yeah.
I love finding the bad reviews, especially since this one was written in 2017.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, damn, dude, you're being a little harsh on the 1959 movie.
That man, he needs a Tingler.
You can't find the Tingler is the problem.
Yes, exactly.
But, I think that, this was kind of part 3 of our movie gimmick episodes because this is William Castle's film. Part 2 of our William Castle, part 2 of movie gimmick. Oh, God, I've fried my brain. But anyway, we're exiting the world of William Castle for now. Now, next week.
Okay.
You got to throw on your 3D glasses.
Oh.
Because we're heading back to camp with Friday the 13th, part 3 in 3D.
Yay, a slasher movie.
Yes, a slasher movie. We're returning to Jason. This is an important movie in the Friday the 13th franchise because this is the first time Jason gets his hockey mask.
Dun,
From
dun,
this
dun.
movie on forward, we have a hockey mask Jason. It's funny that it took like 3 movies to get there.
Nice.
That's something you don't see.
I'm excited.
Are you?
I didn't even know.
Yes, we're doing a slasher. I thought we'd do some slashers here for a little while.
I like
those. You love slashers. It's been a while since we've done a honest to God slasher movie. So we're going to have some fun with that one next week, which I hope you guys join us for that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Have you ever watched a movie with the old, because I have the Blu-ray of Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, and you can actually watch it in the Anaglyph 3D with the red and blue glasses. Have you ever watched a movie like that?
In 3D?
Like that, though, with the red and blue?
No. Just the black ones.
The newer
3D
movies. Well, I thought we'd have you watch a little bit of it, just because for some people it does give them a headache.
Right.
So maybe we'll have you watch a little bit of it just to get a good feel for the 3D parts. But I've seen it in both ways, 2D and 3D, so it'll be fun.
Okay.
But either way, you guys, I can't wait for that episode. And as you know, I gave Jason a voice back in our Friday the 13th Part 2 episode.
Oh, no.
So,
don't do this.
That boy's going to be coming back.
Don't do this.
Jason's ready to kill in 3D. Mm-hmm.
Don't do this. Don't listen to this episode, people.
So to that dude who was really upset on the on our fucking reviews about my impersonations, get ready to turn that episode off, good sir. But anyway, until next time when we head back to Camp Crystal Lake, I'm Lee Evans saying stay spooky.
And I'm Brittany. Stay horrific.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Tingler.
Thanks for listening. To get a hold of us and submit your stories, fan mail, and death threats, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and nightofthehorrorfile.com. Our theme song was written and performed by John Brennan, used with permission. Find John at shopjb.bandcamp.com and at badtechno.com. If you like what you hear, leave a good review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share the show on your social media. See you next week.
Ew.